Welcome to Probate Weekly. I'm Bill Gross, at Bill Gross Probate on social media. And we host Probate Weekly every Thursday morning live on Zoom, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Eastern time, and everything in between on either side. Love to have you join us sometime live. You can register at www.probateweekly.com and you'll get the link to the Zoom call. If you watch this on replay, you can put your comments in and I'll respond to them. Our format basically is almost always an interview. And the idea is to share with you the people that I've worked with and I use to help me build my business so you can help build your business. I'm really excited today to have, first off, I think he's a second time guest, which is always,
I think I'm a part of three member club, Bill.
I
Come
think we
on.
did an interview once and two, we did an interview and this is your second formal um, Probate Weekly, because I still have room for you. I have a whole system now to this, so we'll see. But we'll have you back for the third if you want to get the third as well. But I've had him on here because I believe he's so central to how I built my business. And I also think the missed opportunity for those of you who are in real estate, working in this space, wondering how do I get more business? And yes, an answer might be cold calling, or whatever, or spending money on mailing, but here's a chance to talk to an actual human being who you can use to help your business. Now, I'm going to share with you, Michael Zwick is the proprietor. Now he's changed his branding to the Probate PI, the Probate Personal Investigator or Private Investigator. But I know him as an heirs researcher with Asset International is the company, or Assets International, right?
Right.
And we met him. I met him a while ago on LinkedIn. And if you know Michael, you're going to know him on LinkedIn, whether you like it or not. I really don't like LinkedIn. But Michael just has a way of kind of getting my attention there. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But the reason I would do this is some people say, well, why are you interviewing this guy? A couple of reasons why I made a list. Number one, this is a great tool for your customers, whether it be the families or the attorneys, when there's heirs, they can't find them. Or more importantly, there's an asset that they know a house is there. Who is it? Because if you find the person, you can represent them, get the household, and make money. I've done that. We'll talk about that. Great content for social media. He posts regularly on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I'm sure he'd love you to reshare it and add your 2 bits to that to help for you. For those of you agents who have trouble, what do I post on probate material? He talks about that. A great lead generation tool because frankly, we all have investors and wholesalers who door knock or cold call or mail and find properties are abandoned. And really that's right up his alley because he'll help you find who that person is. And then if you get in the driver's seat, you can help drive that transaction to closing. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. And then how to market. And we're going to talk to him about why he uses LinkedIn, how he uses it, how he brand himself in a way that we as real estate agents or professionals in the space can work with as well. So Mike, with all that said, thank you so much for coming back to Probate Weekly.
My pleasure to be here.
And then also, I noticed over your shoulder is a banner for Alex. Do you want to share a little bit about your involvement with Alex?
Sure. Assets International is my quote day job. Of course, as an entrepreneur, day job is 24/7, or in my case 24/6. Take one day off. So Alex is a really great company that I consult to. It's a basically concierge service for executors and trustees. So imagine you're appointed as executive trustee, and you get into it, and all of a sudden you go, oh man, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. So what Alex does is they take basically all the tasks off your plate. Finding and marshaling all the assets, working with realtors to get the house sold, canceling all the bills, getting in touch with the credit service. They do all that work for the executors and trustees.
And so we'll talk, actually, I've interviewed a couple of people from Alex. We'll be posting that in future, and we'll have a guest in a future episode to go in more detail on that. So let's talk about specifically heirs research. What is it you do, and how does that help families in probate? How does that help attorneys in probate, which also then means how does it help realtors build their business in probate?
So a good part of our business at Assets International is locating missing heirs and beneficiaries. I'll give you a great example. You mentioned I'm active on LinkedIn. The other day,
Very active on LinkedIn.
What was that?
Hyperactive on LinkedIn. Very active
I,
on
I
LinkedIn.
try.
Dominate LinkedIn.
I don't know if that's my goal is, dominate LinkedIn and the world, but one step at a time. So anyways, the other day I get a DM from a attorney in New Orleans who says he's handling an estate where man died and it was a second marriage, didn't have any kids with his wife. And then it turns out that she knew he had been divorced beforehand. She didn't know until later that he actually had a kid with that first wife. He didn't have a will, and under Louisiana law, this long lost daughter who he hasn't seen since she was probably preteen, 30 years ago, is entitled to half the estate. So he turned to me and says, "Can you find
Oops, I think we had a connection.
identify her name and her whereabouts?" She's also in the New Orleans area. And the next step will be hopefully, get in contact with her, apprise her of her inheritance, and hopefully she'll get what she is coming to her.
And so your job or your business then is finding these heirs. Now, I know there's different companies work different ways. Some charge by the hour, some charge on contingency, some do both, some do case by case. How does your particular firm manage that process?
So our business is contingency fee based. Not that one is better than the other, it's just how we're built. So basically, in this case, where I mentioned, we will hopefully get in contact with this daughter. We'll contact her and say, "Hey, we've got great news. We found some money coming your way. In exchange for a percentage, we'll give you all the information and we'll do all the legwork to get you your money." So basically, there's no cost to her if we don't succeed, and also there's no cost to the widow, who she's still going to get her half without our fee coming out of it. So that's just a benefit to the estate of the executor or the trustee, is they're not having to front any money to us, because sometimes we don't succeed. Sometimes we just don't have enough information to work with, or you have a person who might have gone off the grid for whatever reason, whether they've moved to another country. We've tracked down people in dozens and dozens of countries, but not every country has open records like the United States does. We're very successful if we do, but sometimes, I can't guarantee success every time.
So not succeeding could look like not finding any heirs, or not succeeding could look like you have an heir they've identified. You can't track them down either live or past or children of, correct? Those are two different levels of not succeeding.
Right. So, so in this case, going back to it again, just say, for example, they had no idea, they knew nothing about the first wife, didn't even know like where they didn't. So had they said to us, "Hey, they lived in another state. I don't even know what state they lived in. We don't know anything." So that might have been difficult. It made it a little easier. They were able to say, "Yeah, he's lived in New Orleans his entire life." So that enabled us to zero in on, to find first the ex-wife's name, and then from there to find her daughter's name. But sometimes there's just not enough information, especially if it's someone who didn't really know the deceased at all and has been appointed, for example, appointed as by the court because no one else steps forward. So that could be a little more difficult. Nobody knows even a starting point. It also depends on how common the name is. So, some people have much more common names than others. I see there's on the call, I'm not going to single them out to ask him talk, but there's a Jason Patton. Jason Patton is a relatively common name, more so than, I see a Randy Millmeister. That name is definitely not nearly as common as Jason Patton. So that plays a factor in being able to find people and zero in on who is the right person. We can't just go with the first person we find with that name. We have to actually find the person who's actually the actual heir.
Now, I know we've done a couple cases together. Most recently, as in literally, I wrote the check yesterday to your firm, was a case where a kind of a friend of somebody had lived in a condo. Next door was a nightmare where the man had died. Squatters had moved in. There's cats. There's drug deals going on. There's prostitution going on in a condo in San Diego in a nice area. And they had no idea who the owner was. He was, he had a spouse who had passed. He had no evidence of any children. And they called me, and I reached out to Michael, and he was able to find, it turned out, 3 living heirs that had no contact with the decedent, none at all. They didn't know him. They didn't, they had never met him, never seen him. Maybe it's hard for people with close families to understand that, but it's not that uncommon. And sometimes it's multiple generations apart. But as a result of that, we got appointed to open a probate, And then we went through the process of liquidating the assets and then divide the money. And these heirs who, were sitting home one day, got a phone call from Michael's company, end up getting a check, and they're happy. And I'm a realtor. I sold the house. I'm happy. I love that as well. But I think more importantly, helping the neighbor who was living next to this nightmare house, and when the property got sold, and now they have a new neighbor living next to them and solve their problem. So this is the tool when you have abandoned properties. Any house in California is going to be worth 300,000, 400,000 minimum, or a lot more. And if we don't know who they are, that's an opportunity to do some research. And then when you get stuck, to look for the heirs. And if you have questions on how that process works, I'd be glad to talk to you. Now, Michael, I know you also network not just with realtors, which we appreciate, and you consumer facing, but really a lot with attorneys. Talk a little bit, and this is an opportunity for those of us listening. How do you market to attorneys effectively without being too salesy? I'm sure they get solicited. In many cases, they don't understand what you do when you first call. So how is it you market to attorneys to position yourself as an asset rather than as another cold caller or a salesperson?
So I'm a big believer in the soft sell of marketing. I don't believe in just, contacting an attorney and saying it's my first conversation or my 100th conversation saying, hey, do you have any cases for me to work on? My strategy, which I think has paid off, is just to be a presence and let people know who I am and what I can do. So a phrase I learned years ago there's a marketing firm that my company used back in the 2000s to get us some exposure and to help us revamp our website is repetition makes reputation. So constantly you have to have that
hold on. That's gold now. Let's not run over that one. One more time.
Repetition makes reputation.
Because we all think if we send an email, they know what we sent them, but that doesn't really work. They have to hear the message over and over again, right?
Exactly. So I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Very active on LinkedIn.
I used to post pretty much 5 days a week. I'm more amount to usually three days a week on average. I try to be entertaining, informative. I'll often will, as much as I can without being too awkward, try to drop in some language into that post about what I do. Mentioning like, in my work of finding missing heirs, blah 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 blah. I try to just make it entertaining. So Mondays, for example, I do Monday's always a movie. You can see on the screen the Meet the Parents. So every Monday I pick a movie and I find some way of tying it into probate or what I do.
I like that.
Yeah, so and it's funny because when I first started doing it, I thought it would tie me down too much to a specific niche. And actually what happened was it wound up helping me because there's always so much you can post about, but this kind of gave me a focus. It kind of kept me, it's kind of like the horse in the race that needs the blinders on to stay focused on the goal. So it really helps. Sometimes my post just comes from random things going on in my day. We've been living here in Orlando for a little over 2 years, and there's a old DirecTV satellite dish that's mounted on a pole in the backyard. And the other day I said, there's got to be a post I can do related to that. So coming soon to LinkedIn near you will be some post regarding DirecTV satellite dish. I'm also very active on probate listservs. Email lists. So I'm, in addition to being a private investigator, I'm an attorney. That's how I started my professional life. And I'm licensed in Michigan and Florida. So I'm a member of a few attorney email lists. I've definitely become known on them as the guy who knows how to deal with missing heirs. But I also, in order to keep my name in front of people, going back to the repetition makes reputation thing, I will just do whatever I can to join in a conversation in a productive manner. So my company, we've been around for 23 years. We deal with estates all over the country. We do a lot of recovery of unclaimed money from government agencies. So we have to file probate wherever the decedent might be. And so sometimes somebody will post on a thing, hey, does anybody know a good attorney in Oklahoma? And here I go, I got a great one. Here's her name. Here's her contact information. I'll make the introduction. It takes me 2 minutes, but that keeps my name in front of people. It also both that attorney in Oklahoma as well as everybody on that listserv that sees that email. So it's a matter of being helpful, reminding people what you do, but not in a in your face way. For, I get very turned off by people who just go right into sales mode when they connect, when I get a connection with them on LinkedIn. I usually ignore them. Sometimes I'll if I'm in the mood, I'll say, does this really work for you? And they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, their little robot machine doesn't respond to that question is the problem. And really, that's why I got off LinkedIn. I had so many people with that kind of a approach. And then somewhere along the line, I met you. And I think you're the only person on LinkedIn I actually communicate with. And your relationship is so valuable that it's worth hanging out. Let's talk a little bit now, back up a little bit. I'm sorry. You mentioned the listservs. Now, I'm on one because I'm a member of the LA Bar Association as an affiliate. I'm not an attorney, but you can pay
Right.
as an affiliate and join, and as a result, get into their listserv and pick a section. In my case, the trust and estate section. And literally before this call, somebody said, do you know an attorney in Nevada? Well, I know a great attorney in Nevada. I closed a probate referral in Nevada, and so I shared the information, and she got it within 2 minutes and was appreciative. The listservs that you're talking about, are these as a result of bar associations, or is there some other format that you're using?
No, it's I'm a member of two. One is the Michigan State Bar probate section. So they have different, for different practice areas. So because the people I want calling me generally in the missing area are probate attorneys, I'm a member of that. I think it costs me like $25 a year. Most of the emails that come through have to do with estate planning, which is the flip side of what I do. That's the pre-death stuff. I deal with the post-death stuff. So I basically just don't bother to, I just kind of, I don't even bother read those emails. And once I see the title, but also what I do is when I see a new name of a probate attorney, someone who like, again, that's kind of my quote target audience, I'll shoot them a LinkedIn. If they're on LinkedIn, I'll shoot them a connection request. And I don't follow up with an email other than if they connect, sorry, if they accept, I might just say something, hey, thanks for connecting. Let me know if I can be service of you to you. And that's it. And if they want to, they can. I'm out there. The other one is an organization that does educational stuff for attorneys in Michigan. And that's more general, but again, the probate attorneys are on there. There are probate questions that come up. So I'll just be part of that as well. I'm always open to other listservs to be on. I just haven't found them.
And for those listening, in Michael's case, he's an attorney. For the rest of us, those listservs are also a great educational tool to learn the law because they're asking questions. What happens? The new attorney asks a question, and the experienced pro answers it, or 10 people answer it. You see this debate and understand the details of that legal question. So, for me, the listserv has been a great educational tool as well. Hey, for those
Right.
watching, thank you for joining live on the Zoom call. You're welcome to put questions in the chat box if you want to ask Michael a question that way. If you want to speak to him directly, love to have you raise your hand. Just I'll need you to turn your camera on so we can make it enjoyable for everybody to watch. And if you're watching this on the replays, feel free to ask questions and we'll get them back to Michael as well. Let's talk a little bit about on your content, since we're on that topic a little bit. How do you choose to balance between your personal marketing, or what's the word I want to use? Kind of personal information about you and business, because you blend in, a little bit about your family on LinkedIn. You blend in a little bit about your T-shirt collection on your LinkedIn. How do you find the right blend for you? And of course, the question is for you because I don't do any of that. I'm the opposite of you in a sense, but I respect how you do it because that's really authentic. You knowing you, this is important to you. So describe to me how you came to that kind of balance.
So I'm a big believer in the idea that people do business with people they like, people they trust. So I'm putting myself out there. I'm just trying to have fun with LinkedIn while I'm doing this because frankly, I think if I just stuck to all business, I would have given up on it a long time ago. It's got to be enjoyable to me. The way I looked at LinkedIn, and I can't speak to other social media platforms. I also active on Facebook, but that's more for personal stuff. Is my attitude of LinkedIn, as someone described it really great, is LinkedIn is basically a nonstop 24/7 international networking event. So act in there like you would a networking event. Now, granted, when I go to live events, I do put on a, put on, as opposed to shorts and a t-shirt, I'll be wearing, pants and at least a button-down shirt. But generally speaking, I look at the same way as I think LinkedIn does reflect my personality. Um, Again, going to the sales thing, you would never, I don't think, I'd like to think nobody here would, if they went to a networking event, would the first thing they say when they meet me would be, "Oh, Michael, nice to meet you. Here's my business card." It would be more like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Let's talk. What do you do? What, um, you know, that's basically my attitude about it, is people want to know, who I am, what I do, whether they can trust me. I think they need to like me in order to trust me. There's only so much I can talk from a straight business perspective about what I do. There are only so many angles to approach it from a marketing perspective. So that's why I try to be creative and make it fun for people. And like I said, just throw into the conversation, "Oh, here's here, by the way, here's what I do."
It's because I'm just the exact opposite, but I appreciate what you do, right? Meaning I would never wear a t-shirt and talk about my family vacation or movie, though I like movies and I could talk about it in a bit, I guess. But that's me, right? If you get to know me, that's kind of, I'm all business. And if you don't like that, you're not going to like me. So let's flush it out right away. But you've really found a way, I think, to find a way to be authentic you. And I think the message I want people to get is that Michael's not doing this because the movie thing works or the t-shirt thing works. He's doing this because that's who he is. He knows that if you know him and like him, you'll do business with him. And so for all of us, we have to find kind of that blend of personal. Um, so let's talk about where your business comes from. How much is coming from, if you're able to disclose, comes from attorneys, let's say, versus real estate agents, investors, wholesalers. To me, I know you focus your lead generation on attorneys. It seems to me there'd be a whole world of realtors, investors, and wholesalers who would be interested in your service as well.
So I don't know exact numbers. I mean, definitely the bulk of it is coming from the attorneys. That's definitely where most of our leads come from. I'd say, from the listserv and LinkedIn, I get a few calls a week from people. Now, granted, that might not sound like much to some people, but some of our cases can be very high, high dollar. We're talking often six figures or more. So, one case alone, this one out of New Orleans could easily be a mid six figure or mid five figure case right there. So that one phone call is great. So it really just depends on the on things. So the realtor thing is something that definitely intrigues me, and we've done some work on. Haven't really scaled it like I think we probably can.
Got it. Well, I'm trying to help you do that, so we'll continue to work on that.
Appreciate that.
Uh, um, so like me, there are times that you have business. In your case, maybe you have a lead for an heir, you discover the heir, you discover it has to be probated in a certain state. You are an attorney, but you're not licensed to do business in all 50 states. I don't think you do probates in any of them. You have to find an attorney to help you turn this lead into business. And so to some degree, you're, I won't say dependent on, but affected by the effectiveness of the attorney. And real estate agents, I think, have this experience all the time where the customer picks an attorney for the probate or they refer one and don't get the results they expect. So how have you come to um, ensure that the attorneys you work with, that you bring the business to, end up doing the job that you want to get paid for?
So one of the benefits of being active on LinkedIn and just my general personality is I have a pretty good network of people. I'm a member of an organization called Provisors, which is for professionals like attorneys, CPAs, stuff like that. So I have a pretty good network that if I need an attorney in a particular state where we don't already know someone, I can look into it. There's been trial and error. There have been attorneys that we have used that were just, shall we say, bad experiences, and we cut ties with them. And then there are attorneys like the one in Oklahoma that I referenced before. She's been doing, we've done a lot of work in Oklahoma over the years, finding missing owners of oil and gas royalties, as well as owners of foreclosure surplus funds and stuff like that. And she's handled those for us for, like I said, probably about 15 years. And she's the only attorney we use in Oklahoma because she's great and she knows our business and she knows how we work. We know how she works. We know. So once we find an attorney who can work with, we hold on to that attorney for dear life. Some places we've had some trial and error. I think we finally found a good one in Philadelphia, but I know we've gone through a few people, few attorneys who worked in Philadelphia before we finally found one that was a good fit for us. So really just, part of it, like, is leveraging my network. My wife jokes that I know somebody who does something everywhere. And that's something I've inherited from my father in terms of networking and filing away and having a good, not to date myself, Rolodex.
Let me just do some quick housekeeping, if I can, as to where we are, how we got here. This is Probate Weekly. We do this every Thursday morning live, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Eastern time. And then we continue the conversation in Probate Weekly's Facebook group. We have over 4,000 members. Additionally, if you want to, you can post your probate content on there for free and get some additional exposure on your videos or your content. Reen here has a probate help desk that he promotes inside this group. Glad to have you guys do that. And also there's leads there. Here's a lady who posted a question about a complicated probate, and whether you're an attorney or a realtor, you can jump in there, or you might find an attorney to help her with that situation. If you want to join live in the Zoom call, go to www.probateweekly.com, and all we need is your email address, and then you get registered. You get a email reminder to come in live. You can click on here to see all the other audio formats that we're on, as well as the YouTube to see the past episodes. And then we started last week. We launched a new program in the Facebook group called Build Your Real Estate Channel in YouTube. And this lady on the right is my virtual assistant, who is my YouTube channel administrator, Jess. And we talk about how I built my YouTube channel, how you can leverage your knowledge, expertise, and business using YouTube. And my long-term goal, frankly, is to have a network of people so that when we get attorneys, we have 4, 5, or 10 similar people in our network that we can book them to get exposure, to get the practice, to get exposure nationwide. Love to have you join us in that program. It's free every Monday, 2:30 p.m. Go to the Facebook group and sign up there, but it's a Zoom call. And it's pretty personal. And I will say, as an add-on, if we get 10 people or more like we did last week, I offer a free channel review of Jess's. And we don't charge. I'm not selling anything in YouTube at all. Just does charge, by the hour, but I'm going to offer you at my expense a free 1-hour channel review to help you get your YouTube channel going, as long as we have 10 people at that call. That's Mondays, 2:30 p.m. Check out that in the Facebook group. Our guest today is Michael Zwick. He's the proprietor at Assets International LLC. Assets-international.com is the website and has all the legal details. But really, if you want to find him, the best place is go to LinkedIn. He is all about LinkedIn. I'm telling you, this guy, I was ready just to turn it off. And the only reason I go on, and again, look, I have like 25 notifications. I don't know what all this stuff is. I just look for messages from Michael. If it's a message, I respond. Otherwise, I don't go on at all. And then again, he mentions that he's affiliated with Alex, which is a service that we're going to be talking about going forward. Helps trustees who are administering estates, and it's definitely part of the process. Okay, so you've been in this business a while. You've seen people come in and kind of, like we all do in businesses, with a lot of energy and a lot of steam. Place link to event in chat. Okay, hold on 1 second. Whoa. Hold on, everybody. Let me put the link in the chat. Actually, it's a Facebook group you have to go to get into the event. So you have to be a member of the group, and the reason why is we post the content there, and that helps us screen people so we don't get spam. So there's a link to the Facebook group. Is called Probate Weekly, Glenda. So you're certainly welcome. Okay, so you've seen people, I think, come and go in business, marketing-wise, whether it be competitors, whether it be attorneys, whether it be real estate agents. What is it you think that distinguishes the people who build long-term successful businesses versus those that are, one and done, or short-term stars and burn out real fast?
If I knew the secret to that, I'd be a very wealthy man. No, I'm a big believer in, first of all, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And there's no straight line in entrepreneurship. You have to come into it with a expectation of, things going wrong, lean times, and be prepared for it both financially and mentally. So, and frankly, I've been there, and I've had some very tough times in my business, which has then led to some very tough personal financial times in the past. So it's not for everybody, but I think the key is to, first of all, really think about what your plan is, be realistic about it. I watched it a few years, but I remember watching on Shark Tank, and someone would come in and say, this industry that we're getting into is a $3 billion industry. And usually it'd be Mark Cuban and go, okay, that's great, but what's your part of it going to be? Just because an industry is big doesn't mean that your part is going to be big.
Right.
So you have to be realistic about really know what your costs are of doing business. There was a time back in the late 2000s when my company revenue was great. And somehow my partners and I were barely taking home any money at the end of each month. And we were like, what's going on here? And then, I sat down and I did a really in-depth study of our finances, and I realized we were taking on too many matters that we were losing money on. So we set a very hard floor on how much a case had to be worth in order for us to get involved. If it wasn't going to be worth at least over a certain amount, we just weren't going to do it. We'd find other solutions for the person who's calling us, but we're not going to get involved. So you really have to know and be willing to turn down the business that's not going to make you money. There's the saying that, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. And you only have one thing, it's very cliche, but cliches usually become so because they're true, which is that the only limited resource you have is time. There's only so many hours in the day. And if you're taking on cases that are not serving you well, then it's taking time from those that might be.
Well, and also you can take on a case thinking you're going to make so much, and then find out that it's less because there's other liens. Like I know the one that we did, some things pop up, and all of a sudden what thought was going to be X ends up being X minus Y, and you put the same work in, but you get maybe half or
Right.
2/3 or 1/3 of the revenue. And as realtors, same thing. Sometimes we end up deals fall apart. We have to throw some money in to make the deal work, and so you have to start with some minimum. But now I also would imagine that if you have a chance to work with a particularly high value target, maybe a really high quality attorney who does a high volume business, but the first case is a lower revenue, would you negotiate? Would you consider making exceptions and looking at it as marketing expense? Or is that something that your rule is hard and fast and you wouldn't go below that?
If it was really, if there was a real strong showing that first one it would be worth it in order to take a loss in the first one, I would consider it. Like I said, we do a lot of unclaimed property recovery. And for those who are not familiar, unclaimed property are assets that are dormant for a certain period of time, whether it's checking accounts, stocks, insurance policies. They were turned over to the states, and the states are sitting on something like $80 billion of this money. So part of our business is finding people who have unclaimed property, coming to them and getting it for them. So we've, twice have had very large, well-known corporations. I'm not going to say them because private confidentiality, but both times they came to us and said, would you take a fee lower than you normally would, because we'll give you the volume. And in both cases we did, and in both cases we wound up cutting bait after a while because we saw that there wasn't the volume there, and we wound up, it just wasn't worth it for us.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's the other thing you said earlier. I meant to ask a question on that. Probably goes along with that is fit. Right. There's a difference between working with somebody who really fits your business, and maybe you have to make a marginal decision, and somebody doesn't fit your business. And even if they do fit the threshold for income, we all want to work with people who fit our business because it just works better for us than people who don't. So talk a little bit about that. When you may not know up front, but how do you kind of get the feel? Is this the kind of person I'm going to want to work with? What's kind of your process to make those determinations?
Well, you really have to know what you do well and what you don't do well. And we live in an era of specialization where people, are great about you think about all the attorneys that I'm sure everybody here knows. The idea of the general practitioner attorney who does a little of everything is very much a thing of the past. And I think that goes for a lot of industries. For people who, for example, work in real estate, the ones I know, the really good ones, generally have, or I should say, not good, the very successful ones tend to have their niche, whether it's like Bill, like you, who focuses on a lot of probate stuff. When we moved from Michigan to down to Florida a few years ago, we used a realtor that we were friendly with because we lived in a 1 square mile city that's a suburb of Detroit. And this pair of realtors, pretty much like 90% of their business was this 1 square mile city. And they knew everybody in the city. They knew who they had their ear to the ground of who was moving into the community, who was moving out, who's getting ready to sell. So they knew the houses that were not even on the market yet, that they could work out a deal. And we went with them, and they did a great job because that's their niche. So part of it is identifying what your niche is. Obviously, the niche has to be enough to put food on the table. But I'm a big fan. Seth Godin, the marketing guru, talks about the thing of identifying the smallest profitable niche you can find, and going with that. I'm also a big fan of Jim Collins' books, Good to Great, Built to Last, and he really drills down, and his focus is on very large companies. We're talking Fortune 500 companies, but the principles behind them and how they got to there are true whether you're a 2-person company or 1-person company, or you have hundreds or thousands of employees. So I would definitely recommend those books to people who are looking to build a business.
Fantastic. Okay, now we're on the call here. We've got about 20 people watching. The reason we do the Zoom call is my thesis is we all need the opportunity to talk and learn and grow and improve our business, become professional. I know I cover a lot of things that I find important with Michael. We've done business together, but some of you, this is an opportunity to talk to him and find out how he can service your customers. I think any real estate agent who's involved in probate real estate is going to come across a need for either Michael, or there's other companies that do different things that sound the same as Michael's. Like their companies will just do kind of the paperwork research and give you back a certification. There are no errors. They've done exhaustive research. That's a process that some attorneys need. Others will, take cases where the assets aren't as clear. So there's different niches within his niche. But certainly if you have a house that's sitting there vacant and you have some control of the process where you can perhaps step in and help move it forward. And all you need to do is find the errors or establish if there aren't any. In California, we have a law that says if there's no errors, what happens to the money? We have such a process, and I'm sure in other states as well. Then this is an opportunity for you to add to your business. And I think that's really kind of exciting opportunity. So feel free to jump in, raise your hand, or put a question in the chat box if you guys want to do that. But Michael and I can talk all day. Michael, one of the questions I want to ask you, I didn't pre-ask this for permission. So if it's uncomfortable on one hand, but on the other hand, if it's comfortable, it's a great topic. You and I share a religious practice, right? We both happen to be Jewish, both happen to be, I think we describe ourselves as religious. We both wear black yarmulkes, which is kind of a symbol of, hey, I'm Jewish. How does that interplay with your business? How does that interplay? How does your practice and how does your faith interplay with your business, or does it? If you're comfortable discussing that.
To my knowledge, it's never been a minus for me. And frankly, if it was a minus, someone didn't want to do business with me because of it, I wouldn't want to do business with that person anyways. For the most part, my attitude in life about being an observant Jew, I'm 54 years old. For the most part, I've always worn my kippah for work. When I was a litigator as an attorney, when I went to court, I didn't, because things could get nasty and whatever, but that's a whole different story. Generally speaking, though, I like to think that people will see me and say, they'll talk to me, they'll get to know me, and they'll say, here's a guy who knows what he's doing, and we can trust him. And oftentimes that kippah, that sign that I'm a religious person, is just a bonus. But I don't think it's ever been a detractor. I like to think that even though I'm wearing my kippah, and you can't see it in the video because it's usually at the back of my head, but here it is. That
Same.
even though I'm always wearing it, so someone who's sitting across from me will see it. At the same time, I like to think at some point in the conversation, they'll say, okay, that guy is great at finding missing heirs. Not that they'll say, oh, that Jewish guy. The Jew, I don't mind if they say the Jewish guy that finds is great at missing heirs is fine, but I want them to walk away with, this is the guy that I can trust to find missing heirs.
How does your religious practice help you personally? Obviously, we all have ups and downs. You mentioned financial ups and downs. We've all had, personal ups and downs. I know you've had your share as well, and we've shared that. You don't need to go into the details of that, but in those moments, how does having a religious practice or faith help you through your process, or is it not that important to you?
It's definitely important. Uh, I've long believed that God will take care of us in his way, however it might be, and that I've got to just trust that things will be okay when things aren't going so well. It also helps being a Sabbath observer for those who are unfamiliar with the Orthodox Jewish practice from sundown on Friday till nightfall on Saturday night, which is about 25 hours. We don't use phones, don't drive, don't get on the computer, don't watch TV. And I have to say that 25 hours of technology abstention is great. It's great to just get off. It's great to force yourself to be present with what's going on in the world, including my family. And I've got my wife is, if you think I'm active on social media, you should see my wife on Facebook. She for her business, and we have 3 teenagers. So needless to say, there's a lot of technology and screen time going on in our house. And it's nice to have that one day where we're slowed down. We're not going anywhere. I mean, yes, we go to synagogue for services, but we're not going anywhere in terms of running to this practice or meet up with this friend. We're having the one time a week that I know we're going to have our meals together and have time. We're not rushing off to a phone call, and having that unplugging from work is so important. You can't go, at least I shouldn't say you can't. I can't keep going 7 days a week nonstop. At some point, it's just gonna, you're gonna crash.
I would have said when I started in real estate, I wasn't religious. I didn't grow up religious. And so as I became more religious and was confronted with the opportunity to grow, but had to take off for the Sabbath, I would have said at the time, you can't be successful taking off for the Sabbath and the Jewish holidays. Last month, we had 6 work days off out of a 20-day workday period. Now I would say you can't last without taking the time off because you need to recharge. You need to
Mhm.
be connected to why business is important to you. And in the long run, I think that whatever your practice is, you need to build in family time, spiritual practice, downtime, physically, but also more importantly, I think mentally, emotionally, spiritually as well. And I just want to share. I know you and I don't really get into it, but for those who are listening, I think Jewish people, we don't seem to talk as much about our faith. I don't know what that's about. Again, I became religious. I grew up in that world, but I do want to say that in entrepreneurship, it's much more commonly discussed than in other areas of social life. And I can say that there's no way I could have built my business without the faith and the strength I got from that faith in God during the difficult times. It was very difficult to get through the initial year or so of building the business. And I would just encourage all of you to lean on that faith. And if ever I can help in that area, I used to do a class on this, business principles from the Bible, but I would just say to me, this is the strongest tool in all of our quivers is our faith if we have it. And if we don't, whatever form you have, I would say, search that out and find what you can rely on. So again, I don't mean to get too personal with you, Michael. I know some people are, I become more comfortable with that because I wasn't religious and I became Jewish through kind of some evangelical Christians kind of encouraged me to pursue my faith. And so I'm used to sitting around talking about it in a way that I don't think typically religious Jews do. So I'm kind of like a hybrid of the two. We'll go there. Okay. Enough on that. Any other questions? Last call for that. Feel free to put a question in the chat box, raise your hand. There's a chance to talk to a guy who's built a really successful business, as well as I think has a great opportunity for you to learn from his practices, as well as I think reposting his content for those of you looking for something to talk about. So, Michael, let's talk a little bit about the business economy. We just went through an election that whichever side of politics you're on was an emotional, I think, roller coaster and an intellectual roller coaster. One side or the other, I would tell you that the economy is going to crash if the other side wins, and meanwhile, one of the sides won, and one of the sides lost. So during that time, how do you evaluate as a business person, investment and growing your business in this marketplace? And what do you plan for going forward? Does it affect you at all? Do you just continue to work your plan regardless? How do you approach kind of the roller coaster of news and emotion and all that?
I can't say the economy really affects what I do so much. To the extent that we're working with people in real estate, obviously that does affect things because, excuse me, if since our business is very contingency fee based, like realtors, I don't even know the ins and outs about what's going on. But obviously, since we're contingency fee based, it's the value of the house, or for missing heirs, the value of the assets of the estate that they're recovering. Obviously, it does impact things, but we haven't really seen, like I said, we've been around since early in the George W. Bush first term. So we're talking April of 2001 was when we started the company. So we've been now through, 4 presidencies, two on each. Oh, I never saw any correlation as to which party was control of the White House or Congress affecting us. Obviously, there's the how much I'm paying in taxes at the end of the year, but that's a different story.
Yeah. But also, you moved to Florida, or do you live in Florida?
Yeah, we moved down here 4 years ago for what we thought was going to be 6 months and decided to stay.
But that affected your taxes in a positive way.
That does help, that move from a state that has a state income tax to one that doesn't.
Yeah, that's something. I moved the other way. I grew up in California, lived in Florida for a couple of years, moved back to California. I experienced what? There's a state income tax. How does that work? And why
Yeah.
so much? So that's the reason why. Last question is your business geographically. I know that you were based in Michigan. I know you now are based in Florida. How geographically focused are you in those two markets? Is that just because of your success has built those markets? Do you target those markets more, or do you target your business more nationally?
So my business is still based in Michigan. I'm just most of my employees now work remotely. So I'm like I said, I'm based in Florida. If I was living in Michigan, I'd probably still be working, maybe I go into the office here and there, but not all that much. So it doesn't really matter where I am. Michigan is definitely I'd say, a top source in terms of referrals, simply because that's where I know people. That's, like I said, before I'm active on the LinkedIn, I'm sorry, on listservs with Michigan attorneys. I just know them personally from having practiced law, and first years of our business was doing a lot of Michigan unclaimed property, so I knew people from there. So it's just kind of built on that. But we get cases from all over the country. LinkedIn, uh, obviously doesn't have any borders to it. So our cases come from all over the country. And then at that point, we never know where in the world it might take us. We found errors in dozens and dozens of countries. So we don't know where it's going to go. But some of our biggest cases going on right now are, like I said, mentioned New Orleans case. We have one from the biggest one we have going now is from Philadelphia. Another one we're just about to finish up is in Chicago. So, we never know where a case is going to come from.
And while he's in different business, for those of you listening, I think all of us need to think about how do we expand our business? How do we leverage our knowledge and success outside of what we're doing? And building it out regionally or nationally is an obvious opportunity for us. In real estate, there's referrals. In real estate, there's building a downline. Those opportunities, I think that in the past maybe were luxuries that are becoming, I think, requirements in businesses, because we work hard and get a relationship. And if somebody has a house to sell in Texas or Florida, and they want me to be involved in it, they don't just want to give me a referral fee. They want me to pick a partner. They want me to work with somebody I've worked with before. They want me to be able to kind of keep my fingers on it, make sure it goes smoothly. So for all of us, I think what Michael's sharing with you is the opportunity and the necessity, I would say, of looking at your business expanding outside of your individual neighborhood. That doesn't mean you market, like he talked about the specialty of being in one neighborhood, but that person who's selling a house in that 1 square block might be buying a house in Florida, or somebody passes on that house in that square block may also own a second home in Florida. And to not be able to service them, it's not just about being paid, you're getting paid, but about not being able to service the customer is not helping them. And I think that's the opportunity that we want to look at. Okay, so Lynette says, does your company hire people with boots on the ground in areas you're trying to track down heirs, or do you jump on a plane when it's necessary?
Great question. It really just depends on cost efficiency and how detailed it is. We definitely have a whole network of people, for example, we need to do some research on the ground into court documents or land records, whatever. So, if there's the volume for it or the case is big enough, one of us might go to that place. I spent a day in really Western Texas. If you saw Friday Night Lights, that's where I was in the Permian Basin, because there was millions of dollars that we were working with on some mineral, royalties. But if it's a smaller case, we're not going to fly someone just to, work on something smaller. So yeah, we do rely on a network that we've built up and keep adding to of people that can do that type of work all over the country.
Fantastic. And I think also, one of the things that we as realtors should be able to do is offer help, meaning we find errors. And, I've had other real estate agents go to county courthouses on behalf of clients. And I think that's the thing we should offer, because we should be familiar with those records. If we're in real estate, we should be willing to learn. And I think whenever I've gone to court and learned something new, it doesn't just solve that problem, but gives me education that's valuable to get some more business going forward. So let's make sure that if we have a chance to work with Michael or somebody like him, that we're proactive in offering to be of assistance.
And it's also, again, going back to what I was talking about with listservs, it's now generated you goodwill with that person you did the work for, even if whether you're getting paid for it or not. You've proven that you are offering value to somebody else.
And lastly, I would say for those of you looking for content to put on your social media, what great content going to court. Hey, you can't do it in the courthouse in LA County at least, but outside, hey, I went to the LA County Courthouse to look for public records on land owned by so-and-so, or heirs research with so-and-so. We found it. We didn't find it. If I can help you, give me a call. These are the kinds of things that people look at and go, wow, number one, you solve that problem, I'll call you. But number two, you're a problem solver. I have a different problem and I like you and trust you. Can you help me with this other problem? And so this really gets to us being proactive and focusing on solving the customer's problems rather than just focus on getting commissions. Well, look, Michael, you've been very generous with your time. I really appreciate, as always, whether official, I'm going to check the official records. Is this your second actual Probate Weekly, or is this your third? I think it's your second with an interview in the middle, but we're going to find out and notice it appropriately. For those of you, this is Michael Zwick, who's proprietor at Assets International LLC. And the website is assets-international.com. But really, if you want to get him, I would ignore that. And I would go onto LinkedIn and message him, connect with him, just to watch the game of Michael Zwick on LinkedIn. It really, I'm not exaggerating. I don't do anything on LinkedIn but follow Michael Zwick and respond to his messages. But he has a game. He has good posts. He has good content every post. And I see attorneys respond to him. And that's how I've met a couple of people that I've worked with as a result of seeing the interaction. So check out him on LinkedIn as well. And also he's affiliated with Alex, meetalex.com. This is a service for primarily administrators of estates to help them through the administrative process. They're not attorneys. They'll refer business to attorneys when needed and other professionals, but it's a service to help the administrators with the administrative work. So Michael, thank you so much for being on our call today. Really appreciate you as always, and look forward to talking again soon.
Pleasure to be here.
And for the rest of you, this is Probate Weekly. We do this every Thursday at 9 a.m. Oops, I lost my spot here. Screen 2, there we go. Probate Weekly, we do this every Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Eastern time, and everything in between on either side. And then we continue the conversation in the Facebook group, Probate Weekly. We have over 4,000 members. We just went over that number. Feel free to post your probate-related or trust-related content there as well. There's leads there. There's realtors looking for referrals. There's attorneys looking for referrals. Love to have you join in. If you're watching this on a stream and want to get in live on the Zoom call, go to probateweekly.com, put in your email address. You'll get a reminder. You can come in on the Zoom. We'd love to have you come in and ask questions live and in person. If you'd like to, scroll down and you can get the audio versions as well, Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. And then past episodes on YouTube, love to have you share there as well. Then the last kind of opportunity to build your own YouTube channel. I host a free, and we don't upsell, there's no other program. It's really about building out a network. Build your real estate channel in the Facebook group. We do this every Monday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's just a half hour, but it's actual work. We're going to go through real examples, real questions, how to improve your YouTube channel to help you build more business, leverage the contacts you have so you can work the same amount of hours, but get more business, work less hours, make the same money either way that works for you. Thank you so much again, Michael. As always, thank you for being on the call and have a great week.
You too.